Hello and thanks for watching Tech Dredge. Today we'll be having a quick look at Thermaltake's Level 10 GT, which comes in the standard black edition or the shiny white snow edition that I have with me today. Now this case has been out for a few years, so let's see how well it holds up. Level 10 GT came out in like 2010 or 2011 and is the successor to the hugely expensive and not very practical Level 10. When this case came out, there was nothing else like it in terms of aesthetics, and surprisingly that still holds true today. While there are other cases that are aggressively designed for sure, there's none that truly compare to this boxy, modular, compartmentalized style with the external hard drive bays and the big protruded side intake fans. In the looks department, it's a pretty polarizing piece of art. If you love the looks of it, there's nothing else that will do. And if you hate the looks of it, you're wrong. Not really, of course, subjectivity and all of that, but I think it's amazing looking. The case kind of hits that sweet spot for me between, those classy, refined designs that are a bit boring and the super aggressive, I'm a spaceship from Mars kind of products. It's not nearly as ostentatious as you might think in person, but it certainly draws attention to itself, no doubt about that. Let's start with the boring bits first, eh? The right side panel is made from heavy steel, whereas the rest of the chassis is made from high quality injected plastic. As you can see at this corner, you can't really tell the difference between the metal and the plastic components. So there's not much else to note about this side really, except the pretty gorgeous Level T logo down on the bottom right. Along the top of the Level 10 GT, we have a couple of bits of mesh and some front ports. So you have two USB 3 ports, and this is kind of odd. You have an eSATA port. You don't see those on the front of many cases these days. Though since this case came out, eSATA hasn't really caught on, I guess. There is an inbuilt fan controller with high and low buttons, as well as an LED controller. The case fan LEDs have 3 color options. I think it's red, blue, and green. Or you can have it cycle through each color, or flash all the colors at once, or you can turn it off, of course, if like me, you don't care for flashing LEDs. Talking of LEDs, there's a strip of blue ones along here, and they fit really well into the color scheme of white and black. On the black edition of the case, I think the LEDs are RED. Under the LED strip, you have a pretty sturdy feeling carry handle, though I'm not sure I'd trust it with a full system inside. A really cool thing about this back panel of mesh is that it clips right off, and you can behold the behemoth 200mm fan. The main use for this removable mesh is, I'm assuming, so you can easily remove the exhaust fan if you want to install a radiator there. The back of the case is also pretty unremarkable. You can see the thought that has gone into it. You have 3 holes here for running either pass-through cables or water cooling pipes, and it feels really good. Sorry, what was I going to say? This spot here is where you can hang your keys for the case, or more practically as a cable management routing tool. The rear exhaust provides mounting holes for both 120mm and 140mm fan, and there's a 140mm fan in there by default. More ventilation down the side, and the 8 PCIe brackets, which means even with a full extended ATX motherboard inside, you will be able to use every slot on the board, including a dual slot graphics card in the bottom slot. Removing these PCIe backplates, it's a bit weird. To do it toollessly, you first need to take off this plate here before you can get full access to these thumb screws. I think the point of this is as an anti-theft device if you're at a LAN party or something, but as it's still all toolless, people can just, undo it anyway, so it's just kind of annoying to me. That said, it is still all toolless, which is good. The less times I have to reach for a screwdriver, the better. You've got your PSU cutout down here, nothing unique about that. And next to the PSU cutout is another cable management thingy for your power cable. But how do you thread a bulky cable through such a petite slot? Well, the really cool thing about these cable tidiers on the back of the case is that they are held on by thumb screws. So you can simply reach your hand inside the case, unscrew them without touching a screwdriver, put the cord in, and just screw it back on, which is super awesome, and it's where you can really start to see some of the little touches on this case that go a long way towards practicality. Onto the front panel. Under the Thermaltake logo here, you'll see 4 5¼ bays. These are easily removable. You just push the tabs inwards and pull the panel out. That's the same with the 3¼ bay down here. But if you aren't using optical drives or any other 5¼ inch bay device, these little slabs are meshed to allow optimal airflow. Along here you have all of the necessities and then some. You've got your power switch, your reset switch, and hard drive indicator LED. There's no power LED. I'm assuming that's because it's behind the power button itself. You also have headphone and microphone jacks over there, and 4 USB 2.0 ports. So you have those in addition to the USB 3 ports on top, which brings the expansion to 6 USB ports plus eSATA, which is insane even by today's standards. You just don't find many cases with that level of expansion on the front panel. That's a huge thumbs up. There's another strip of blue LEDs down there. Oh, maybe that's where the power indicator is. So if the blue lights are on, so yes. No, I'm pretty sure there's an LED behind the power button. So here you have a lot more mesh, behind which is another intake fan, which blows right over the hard drives. Thermaltake say this case is airflow optimized, and I'm not going to disagree with that at all. Up next to the 3½ inch bay is a little lock. This unlocks and locks the 5 removable hard drive bays, which are awesome. To remove and install a hard drive, you simply push the button and pull the sled out. You can mount either 2.5 inch hard drives or SSDs from the bottom here, or install 3½ inch drives from the sides here, where you'll notice just padded mounting holes that are a nice little touch for reducing vibration. I've read some complaints that these sleds are a bit flimsy, but I can't really see that. They are very light, sure, but they are solidly constructed. And I love having external access to my hard drives. While it's not particularly useful for most people, I guess, one purpose I can think of is easily replacing a failed disk in a RAID array, and it looks pretty cool. On this side, again, nothing overly remarkable apart from the looks, of course. This little lever over here can be used to adjust airflow from the huge 200mm side intake fan. You can adjust that up or down depending on where you need your cooling the most. This fan is also filtered, and the filter is extremely easy to remove. It just press in and it clicks right out. This black piece here is all metal, though all of the white compartments are made of injected plastic. The side window here is small, but overlooks the important bits, namely the CPU and RAM, I guess. On this bit of mesh over here, you have a mounting slot for a headphone hanger, which is included, and I'll get to that later. Up here, you have a barrel lock for just unlocking and locking the side case, and over somewhere you have an eject button to open the case itself. There are 4 feet on the bottom of the case that can be swiveled outwards to add to stability. I think that's about it. On the exterior, the fit and finish is very, very good. There are a few things that don't fit quite flush, but it really doesn't distract or is even noticeable from the overall design. A lot of things I've only picked up after combing through it deliberately looking for flaws. Most of the case being made of plastic, it doesn't seem like a valid criticism to me unless you are using your case as like a lightning rod or something. And this case is certainly tall enough for that. Like if the plastic was compromising structural integrity, I would see a point, but the structure of the Level 10 GT is all steel, and the plastic used on the outside is very high quality and feels very sturdy. It hides dirt remarkably well, and it won't yellow or fade with age. I guess if you wanted to mod the exterior, it might not be so great. So I think if we just crack this baby open and have a look inside. So all you have to do to open the Thermaltake Level 10 GT is press the eject button down here on the bottom, and it will pop open on hinges, which gives you access to the main working area of the case. If you need to be doing some serious work and don't want the door in the way, you simply lift it off like so. On the inside of the door, you can see the 200mm intake fan, which does look annoyingly difficult to remove if you ever wanted to. That said, it can be done. There are screws here. The slats here can be repositioned by the lever I was showing you before. These do feel a bit flimsy, but they are functional and they aren't likely to be damaged with any day-to-day use. What is pure genius about the side intake fan is that it's wired up to just a little contact point here, and there's a matching one on the side of the case here. So the fan will always receive power so long as the door is closed, which is, it's just the most perfect solution as opposed to running a cable and fiddling to get it where you want to go while you're closing the door. It's a perfect solution. The interior space of the Level 10 GT is cavernous. It really is huge. You have a graphics card clearance of 36 centimeters, which is enough for the largest cards on the market today, and CPU clearance of 19 centimeters, so that should fit pretty much any large dual tower CPU heatsink in there. First thing you'll probably notice about the motherboard tray is the huge CPU cutout, followed by all these cable management grommets, which are pretty standard fare on modern cases these days. But Thermaltake have included lots of them, which is nice to see. Another very considerate thing they've done is label all of the mounting holes on the motherboard tray, according to what motherboard form factor you will be installing. So there's M for micro ATX, A for standard ATX, and E for extended ATX. Mounts come pre-installed for standard ATX motherboards, so most people will be able to screw their boards just straight in. It's another one of those nice conveniences, which this case is just full of. On the back, you just have the 140mm exhaust fan, nothing fancy about it, and then a 200mm exhaust fan on the top, which can be removed and replaced with dual radiators very easily. A lot of people say that 200mm fans, you don't get much more performance than much smaller fans, which is kind of true, but they do run much quieter. There are 3 200mm fans on this case, and none of them produce more than 16 decibels of noise, which makes this a near silent case. The level 10, it really is exceptionally quiet when it's running. All of the connectors on the front panel, not just here, there's nothing fancy about them. You've got your HD audio, LED, power and reset switches are over here somewhere, and you've got SATA for the front panel header. This Molex connector, it powers all 3 of the 200mm fans in the case, so you only have to run one cable, which is nice. Down the bottom is the PSU area, of course. There's mounting here for either 120mm fan or radiator, and you can probably mount a radiator up here as well. If you're liquid cooling, this case should more than suit your needs. The PSU bracket itself is raised by a few millimeters off the bottom of the case, which is just good thinking. I've seen other cases that do this, a lot of them do. But the reason why every case should do this is that if you mount a power supply in here with the fan facing down, and then sit the case on, say, a carpeted surface, the feet of the case might sink in a bit, leaving the PSU starved for air. Raising the mounting bracket that few millimeters means that even if the bottom of the case is blocked off, the PSU can still draw air from the inside of the case. The bottom intake area is filtered, and the filter can very easily be removed just by pulling it out from the rear. And I think that covers pretty much everything in here. Onto the other side, this panel comes undone with thumb screws, which isn't nearly as cool or convenient as the other side, but it's still a pain-free experience. Once you slide it off, you get a pretty good view of a very expansive cable management area. Thermaltake includes lots of clips, tuckaways, and cable running areas, which is nice to see, but unfortunately they do pre-populate most of them with default case cables and don't leave many of them free. But there is more than enough room to do some pretty intense cable management back here. There are no SSD mounts that I can see. There is also the huge advantage of only needing to run one power cable to power all 5 drives in the Easy Swap bay. You have to run each SATA data cable individually though. The hot swap design is removable. You just unscrew each of these plates, but leaving it in is an excellent idea as it makes adding and removing hard drives and SSDs just so painless. You do have to be careful when you are installing a hard drive though, as too much force could cause it SATA connector to snap. I haven't had any problems with it so far, but some people have brought that up. The 3.5-inch bay is a bit hard to access, but it has little holes for you to screw in the device, though you do need a magnetic screwdriver to do that without fuss. It's a pretty fiddly process otherwise. I'd have much rather seen a screwless implementation as seen with the 5.25-inch bays, which are no fuss, plastic clips that just work. Which brings me to my biggest and really only complaint with the Thermaltake Level 10 GT. I had to install a regular 5.25-inch bay device, which had to be screwed in because the clips, recessed it a bit and stopped it from working. That's fine. Thermaltake do provide screw holes for precisely this reason. But if you need to screw the device in on both sides, well then access is a bit, not difficult, but it's inconvenient. You have to flip the case around, open the door, take out these 3 screws, and, oh, that still doesn't work. So then you have to remove the front panel of the case, and yet remove more screws, which is a bit annoying when the rest of this case is just so well designed and so easy to use. This square panel should just clip off. Once you have the front panel open, you can get a really good view of that great intake fan there, which is nice and easy to remove, and it's filtered too. The filter isn't quite as easy to remove as others on this case, but there is a little easy grip tab and you just pull it up and out. I would have preferred to see it spring-loaded like the side filter, so you can access it without taking off the front panel. And I think that covers pretty much everything about the case itself. So let's take a look at all the accessories. In the box you get a pretty basic manual, which wasn't really that great, a 2011 product catalog and warranty information here as well. You also get all of your screws and some pretty awesome looking cable ties, heavy duty ones I'm assuming. You also get an extension cable for 8-pin CPU power, which is nice to see for such a large case, and case speakers in there as well. I think that's it. Oh, I almost forgot the headphone hanger, which just clips onto the side of the case, and you have a stylish mount for your big gaming headphones or Apple earbuds if you're me. The case comes packed in a cloth scratch-resistant cover, which is really cool if you ever need to transport your case, and it also comes with 2 keys, just in case you ever lose one. So does the Thermaltake Level 10 GT, a 3-year-old case, hold up today? The answer is an overwhelming yes for me. This case, which I think looks awesome, is a dream to build in, though I've yet to put a full system inside it. It includes loads of easy-to-use features, such as hot-swappable hard drives, adjustable airflow, screwless optical drive installation, removable filters, and a great front input panel. It's super roomy. It accommodates up to eATX motherboards and the largest graphics cards and CPU coolers, and there's more than enough room in here for a custom water cooling loop. Aesthetically, it has a completely unmatched design that could be construed as gamer bling, but it isn't insanely aggressive. I don't game, and I still pick this case for my personal workstation based on the ease of installation and aesthetic. That said, there are things I do not like about it. I'm not a huge fan of the PCIe bracket cover removal and installation. It's just too fiddly. The fit and finish isn't perfect. Not something I noticed until I started combing through this thing looking for flaws. And is still generally really very good. I really wish I didn't have to unscrew panels to remove the front panel when just installing some irregular bay devices, and I wish the front dust filter was accessible without ripping off the front panel. Not necessarily a criticism, but I would have liked to see 6 hard drive bays, as I have 6 hard drives. That said, there is a huge amount of room inside the case to mount more if you do need to. Value-wise, depending on whereabouts in the world you are, when you buy it, it will either be a great buy or expensive, but easily justifiable. This is a great case, and I have no problems recommending it at all. Thank you for watching Tech Dredge. I hope I'll be able to bring you more of these videos as time allows. Please feel free to leave a comment, like, dislike, or message me if you have any questions, comments, or constructive criticism. Have a good one.